I'm absolutely thrilled that I get a chance to have a conversation with our next guest. Participants, please note that there will be an opportunity for you to submit questions for our guest. You can type your questions directly to Dan Marshall, and he will either share some of your submitted questions in a moment, or we might even bring you on screen. So please straighten your wigs, friends. We've got company. So let's meet this visitor. Our next guest is an extremely accomplished artist who has directed and choreographed some of the most exuberant work you have seen on stage and on film. Let's take a look at this clip.
It should be carefully planned and easy, so no one gets the upper hand. Certainly not the men, and no one ever makes a scene. And no one asks you where you've been. Little corners, little corners, I know how very true to be, and if it's not, it's not for me. No, 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 no,
Oh, friends, will you please share some Zoom love for director, choreographer, artist, groundbreaker, and all around excellent human being, Susan Stroman. Susan Stroman, please reveal yourself. Yes, yes, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful. Really.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you.
May I call you Stro? Would that be okay?
You may call me Stro, yes.
Thank you. We shall call you Stro. Stro, I'm going to kick it off with a little game that I like to call 60-second life story. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. You're going to tell us your entire life story. Don't be modest.
Okay.
And don't leave out the awesome parts. Okay. You have 60 seconds.
All right.
Now.
Go? Yeah. Okay. So, well, I'm originally from Delaware. So, and I, Delaware, University of Delaware, everything Delaware. And, but my father was a wonderful pianist. So I grew up in a house filled with music. And he played classical music, old standards, you know, everything. It was across the board, mainly though, like Kern and Gershwin. And so I grew up, I was that little girl who danced around the living room and her father playing the piano. So it was, the house was filled with music. And I mostly got interested in the theater, although I did ballet and jazz and tap and vocal lessons and guitar lessons and piano lessons. I couldn't get enough of it my whole life growing up. And I came to New York wanting to direct and choreograph, although I performed in the tri-state area there. I really wanted to create because I felt like I was a creator even when I was a little girl. So I came to New York. I knew I couldn't take over. I came as a song and dance gal, so because I could sing and dance, but it was always to get on the other side of the table. And I started to get jobs choreographing and directing different shows off Broadway. And then all of a sudden I got my first Broadway show directing and choreographing was The Music Man, that big revival that happened. Before that, I choreographed Crazy for You on Broadway. And then, you know, many other things, you know, I did The Producers on Broadway, directed and choreographed The Producers and the Scottsboro Boys. And so I love it. I am a theater animal. And when Peter called me about The Merry Widow, I think he felt that I was right for that because it's more of an operetta and it had a comedy in it. And of course it had a lot of dance in it. So I was thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to work at the Metropolitan Opera. And
Beautifully
that
done.
is why I am here today. So there you go.
Beautifully done. Come on. It's amazing. Susan Stroman, you have done so much remarkable work and continue to do so. And this discussion could go in so many different directions, but I'm going to remain focused. We're going to start with The Merry Widow. And just to kick it off, can we pretend that I am a student who is unfamiliar with this opera? tell me in the most basic terms, what do I need to know to get this opera and to enjoy this opera?
Well, it's a wonderful opera in the sense that it is joyous, and it's written by Lehar. There are many waltzes, which nothing's better than that, a hypnotic waltz to get you into the story. But it's about a love story, but it's an older love story. So it's not two young whippersnappers falling in love. It's two people who have lived a full life, and they knew each other when they were young, and they rediscover each other when they're older. And so it's got a lot of heart to it, and it takes place in a made up country called Pontevedra, and so it's a made up country where they need to get their head marshal to marry a widow to take her money to give it to the country. And when they pick Danilo and introduce him to Hannah, you realize that, oh my God, they know each other. They knew each other when they were young. And so they have, the sparks fly about not wanting to, they both have great pride about why they would be doing this. Of course, in the end, it all works out that they all ultimately fall in love. But the first act is in the embassy, the Pontevedrian embassy. And the second act is in Hannah's garden, beautiful garden. And then the third act is in Maxime's in Paris. And what for this Merry Widow, it's usually done in 3 acts, but we wanted to do it only in 2 acts. So we did a big transition from the garden to Maxime's, and we did that through dance, because what I usually do on Broadway when I'm creating shows is the transitions happen choreographically. So I was able to bring that up to the Metropolitan Opera and make that set change with dancers, and it was just so much fun. And I got that, that big chorus up there that I adore, got them all dancing. Because there are like 3 types of dance in the Merry Widow. There's the waltz, and then there's folk dancing, or what I would make up to be Pontevedrian folk dancing, and then the good old can, which I'd never done a can before, so that was great. But the best thing for me was working with Renee Fleming and Nathan Gunn. They were just a joy to work with, and also for me, coming up to the opera, knowing that the vocal is most important and the lyric is most important, and making sure that they were in the right place on stage to deliver this vocal, and nothing else was happening around them. And very different again from Broadway, where they sing upside down because they got microphones all over them,
Right, exactly.
And they don't up at the opera. That's pure. So I was there. That had to be my number one concern, and to service that beautiful vocal, But it was great, and I think the chorus was delighted to be able to learn dance and to be very much a part of this story, and also to do a bit of comedy up there.
Yes.
No one dies in the Merry Widow, which is lovely.
Put that on the t-shirt. No one dies in the Merry Widow. Sell it in the gift shop.
Yeah.
So, Stro, we're going to take a look at this clip from your production of the Merry Widow. This is the transition, which you brilliantly staged as an a vista scene change. And I learned that an a vista scene change means that's in view of the audience. It is visible to the audience. So after we have a chance to watch it, maybe you could tell us about what we're seeing and a little bit more about what went into that transition. Dan,
Absolutely.
Would you roll that clip? It's amazing. I mean, where do you start with what goes into an Vista scene change like that? It's
Well,
amazing.
yeah, so what's interesting is at the opera, there's usually, you bring in the curtain and they change the set. And that's what's done. But we wanted to combine these two acts, so just to make the Merry Widow shorter. And so it was how to make that set change. And it was, I have to say, the crew up there were fantastic. And I think they really wanted to do that and try it. And we worked it out actually musically. And I thought through it, how to do it musically, and then sat around with the crew and the technical people. And I said, this needs to be seen at this point. This needs to be at this point musically. Because what's so wonderful about stage management and everybody there, they know their music. Everybody reads music in the building. It's fantastic. So I was able to say the stairs come in here and the girls fly in here, and they all did it. But what was wonderful about that, we didn't bring in the curtain and wait. The audience didn't have to wait, and it was quite the feat, I think. And for the audience, I think at the Met, they had never seen anything quite like it. So it had a great roar at the end of it, which made the dancers feel fantastic,
Ah, I was just amazed from the jump, the way the dancers are able to manipulate their skirts. So all of their skirts are making the same shape. And then by the time they're flying in from above, I was like, are you kidding me? It's really special. It's really
Thank you.
exciting.
William
Was
Ivy
the
Long did the costumes, and he did a
Oh,
beautiful job. He
beautiful.
just beautiful on Hannah's costumes and everybody's costumes, and they're lush and beautiful and romantic, and of course they're quite fun on the Can Girls.
As I was preparing for this discussion that we're having today, I was struck by something that you've talked about repeatedly throughout your career, about this combination of coming in with a profound amount of research done and a lot of preparation in place, and then getting into the mix, the collaborative mix with people. And you're working at very high levels with world-class artists, including this piece of production we just saw from the Merry Widow. And then really having a sense of collaborative flexibility. And I just wanted to hear you talk more about that.
Well, I think, because I think the more research you do, the more preparation you do, when you get in front of those actors or those singers, um, it's not so much, because every show that I do, I pretty much have it worked out how it goes. But I don't totally share that with the actors, because I want them to feel like they are creating and they are making it happen. So it's almost like you're building a net for the performers to fall into in case they are heading down the wrong way. But I am inspired by performers. I am inspired by the way they move or the way they feel they need to move. So I think I get the best results by doing the homework and
Yeah.
then being inspired by the people in front of me. And I know up at the Met, you do not get enough rehearsal time. I'll say that right up front.
Did you hear that, Matt?
The more prep time you do, and
Yeah.
the other thing is quite different when you're working for because I've done some ballets for the New York City Ballet. When you're working for an institution like the ballet or the Metropolitan Opera, it's very different from doing a Broadway show, because everybody is sort of devoted to doing that Broadway show. It's to do or die, because if it doesn't work, everybody involved in it's out of work. But up at the Met or the ballet, you do your show, but then an hour later they're pulling it down and putting up Madame Butterfly. So
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
your show's not the most important thing. So you have got to be ready, because the chorus does so many different shows, and they do so many different shows that week. So you really do have to be prepared. Because you want to feel that at 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, you get with these folks, that you are focused with them and for them, because right after that, right after you put your coat on, they're doing Fledermaus or something. That's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
You know,
very,
I
very
was
different, you know.
I was teasing earlier. Did you hear that, Matt? But it's true in so many disciplines where I was shooting a television show earlier this week, and you have to be ready, whether you're on that set or you're at the Met, you have to be ready as an artist to hit the ground running. You have to have done your homework and you have to show up prepared and ready to rock. So it inspires me to hear you say these things because I think it's a good lesson for us to embody, but also carry on to our students. And also, your work has such effervescence and it looks easy and it looks like, oh, it looks like that just happened magically and then they lowered the dancers from the ceiling into Maxime's. But of course, it's an enormous amount of preparation. So I always love hearing people talk about the hard work that goes into it, even
Yeah.
though in the end it may look like a souffle. A lot of work went into that souffle. So Susan, our audience today is largely composed of educators. I was listening to an interview that you did where you talked about how your parents would have been very happy if you would have stayed in Delaware and ran a dance studio and been a great teacher and a leader. But it seems like you had this really clear vision from a very young age, and you were very strategic about how you went about this, to be a leader in the form of a director and a choreographer and to be a maker. Can you talk about some of your most formative teachers?
Well, I think for me, you know, as a dancer, of course, I in Delaware, James Jameson, who was a wonderful teacher. He was in the original Brigadoon, and he had a studio in Delaware. I don't know why he was in Delaware, but he had a studio there, and so definitely him. But then coming to New York, you know, it was Henry Latang and of course, but who I admired, of course, was Jerome Robbins and Balanchine.
Mm,
And it was that combination of the classical, wonderful pieces that Balanchine would do and choices of those classical pieces. And then Jerome Robbins, who would dance in character. You know, even if you were a sailor, when you started dancing, you were still a sailor when you were flying in the air, you know. So it's that combination of those two were the most. But I was quite lucky when I came to New York. The directors that I paired up with were Hal Prince, Trevor
good
Nunn,
teachers, good
Trevor Nunn,
teachers.
Nick Heitner, Mike Ockrent. You know, they were
Yeah.
like seasoned theater directors for me to learn from or watch and observe. And so it was mostly doing. You know, I knew creating for the theater was much more important than performing,
Mm.
because there's nothing better to be in the back of a house and listening to an audience react to something you created, whether it's you know, they're laughing and the producers, or they're crying in Contact, the show that I did at Lincoln Center,
Yeah.
or they are, or their breath is taken away by the Scottsboro Boys. You know, it's that kind of feel that you get when you're in the back of the house, that you, or even Crazy Few, you see somebody put their arm around one another. You know, that it makes me so happy and so fulfilling to be able to move an audience in some way, whether you're making them laugh or making them cry or just making them or teaching them something that they didn't know. You know, so that's so fulfilling to me.
I'm so astounded and inspired by the fact that you knew this very clearly about yourself from seemingly a very young age, that you you knew that you wanted to be a creative in those leadership roles, but the way to get to it was going to be to assess the situation through being a performer in New York, and you were talented enough to take that path. I, I, I the reason why I note it is because so many of these educators have students and they are helping those students figure out what is their happy place going to be, what fine distinctions, that it's not just I want to work in the theater, that it's I want to work in the theater in this leadership position as a director choreographer, and that you just got there and I just love it. I
Well,
love
you
it.
know, some of the advice that I give to young students is don't be afraid to ask the question, because the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no, and then you move on.
Mm,
So don't be afraid. And for me, I was performing in a Broadway show. It lasted 1 week on Broadway. It was called Musical Chairs, a disaster. And I was sitting out front on a stoop with another fellow performer, Scott Ellis, and we both said we wanted to be on the other side of the table. And
Yeah.
so Scott had done The Rink on Broadway with Candor and Ebb, and I had done Chicago with Candor and Ebb. And we thought, what if we went to them and said, give us one of your shows and we'll do it in a new way off Broadway. So we thought, should we knock on their door? We didn't know Candor and Ebb really well. We just knew them as legends. But we were brave enough. And these two young kids went up and knocked on Candor and Ebb's door and said, could we take one of your shows, Flora the Red Menace, off Broadway and do it in a new way? And they said yes, which couldn't believe it. So Scott and I went down to the Vineyard Theater, an off-Broadway theater, and said, Candor and Ebb said we can have the show. Can we do this? And so they said yes. And we probably made $200 for the whole summer,
Yeah.
but we created this show that then got a cult following, and I never went back on stage again. So it just, because then Hal Prince saw it, and of course Liza saw it, all these people saw it, and it's that idea for your students to take a chance and not be afraid. If I was too afraid to knock on Candor and Ebb's door, it would have, I don't know where I'd be,
Yeah.
but it has to be and to put themselves in the middle of whatever. It's one thing to wish it, but to actually set the opportunity for you to immerse yourself in an opera company or a theater company, or be near it, and you will network yourself and absorb everything there is to learn about it.
It's wonderful. You're a person who you have these frequent collaborators and artistic homes like the Met, like the Vineyard Theater. I count the Vineyard Theater as an artistic home, and we've created 2 musicals there. You've created more shows there. And I just think it is such a hallmark. It's a testament to who you are as a person. You are a kind person. You are a collaborative person. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the way that one moves through the world, so that you're not burning bridges, but you're developing these collaborative relationships with deep, deep roots?
Well, I think collaboration is the key to the success of anything, and it's allowing people to bring their ideas to the table, and in the end, you know what? There is no bad idea, because someone could throw a bad idea on the table, and you could pick it up and turn it into gold.
Yeah.
So you just need to let people have the freedom to create, and let them feel it very much part of it. Same when I work with the performers, I want them to feel a part of it, because in the end, it should look like that's the only way they could have possibly walked to stage left. It's so much in their character to go that way. So you want to make it feel very natural and part of them. So collaboration is the real key to that. And all the egos have to be put out to the outside. No egos and no judgment. And you will find that collaboration is the real reason a lot of things are quite powerful, because it took this team of people to make it happen. And you mentioned kindness. That's another thing I tell young people. Kindness goes a long way. Yeah. And people remember kindness, and also people remember those that are not kind,
Yeah.
And so I think kindness in the arts do go a long way for collaboration and for moving on and for meeting other people.
Yeah, so good. So you continue to live this very big, very whole, very full life. You've had a very celebrated professional career, but you have also experienced things that many of us have experienced: great loss, grief, heartbreak, both personally and professionally. I intuit that you are somebody who embodies resilience, and you have said that during challenging times, you've taken great comfort in your creativity and your work in the theater. globally, we are going through a challenging time, and certainly these teachers are experiencing genuine challenge. And we can't turn to gatherings to heal us, but can you share any wisdom with us about how you are navigating these challenging times yourself?
Well, it is quite difficult, you know, for us in the theater
Yeah,
and the arts and the music and opera and ballet. You know, it's very difficult. But what I have continued to do is to create. I continue now to meet with collaborators and art and artistic teams on Zoom and talk through stories, talk through ideas. You know, it'll take more than a pandemic to stop those creative juices from flowing. You know,
yes,
so it's calling somebody else and talking through an idea or a story or you know, because you have to believe that when we get on the other side of this apocalypse, you can have some material then to pitch or do or whatever, you know, but to not wait. You can't wait. You know, you have to keep creating. And I've been very lucky to have started the creation of two brand new musicals during this pandemic,
yeah,
and even, you know, and directed a play for Audible Books. And, you know, so I keep you find out what you can do during a pandemic, but
yeah.
it is something that, you know, that we keep doing over Zoom, and it has made me feel like I think I would have lost my mind if I couldn't keep creating, you know. So
Absolutely.
and
And
I think for even if you have students, it's giving them those kind of assignments, you know. Hope you two go away
absolutely.
and come back with a musical. You two go away,
Go into a Zoom
come back
breakout
with a
room and come
song.
back with a musical. There you go.
You know?
I feel like research is really bearing out how that creativity and that meaningful engagement, even when it's virtual, is it's completing the stress response cycle, and it's keeping people moving through their emotions so you don't get stuck. You
Yes.
don't get stuck. You keep moving. You keep those emotions in motion.
Yeah.
So now we'd just like to take a moment and see if we've got some good questions from some of our teachers. Dan, Marshall, do you have any questions, or would you like to share the screen of a teacher who might have a good question who'd be willing to show their face?
I think that Karen Saxon had a question. Let's see
You
if we
know, I love Karen Saxon.
can get her
Karen
in here.
Saxon, will you show your face? Karen Saxon! Karen Saxon, I'd like to introduce you to Susan Stroman. Susan Stroman, Karen Saxon. Karen, what question do you have for Stro?
Well, I was particularly intrigued by your stories of recreating works, and it's one of the things that I absolutely love about what the Met has been doing with opera as of late. And I'm wondering, where did you draw your inspiration from when recreating The Merry Widow?
Well, to be quite honest, it was I never thought of it as a recreation. I approached it as if it had never been done before, in a way. So I had this music in front of me, but it was a new book, and it was you know, new set design, a new way to do it, and made it cut, made it tighter. So, and I think that's for any, even in the theater doing a revival, you need to approach it as if it's never been done before, in a way, rather than just recreating. You know, the Oklahoma that I did was a new Oklahoma, a new way to do Oklahoma, new dance arrangements for Oklahoma. Hugh Jackman, you know, in Oklahoma, everything about it was new. But for the Merry Widow, it was more. You know, I wanted, of course, keep what everybody loves about the Merry Widow, but I wanted to present it in a new way. So I think it's almost acting like it's never been done before, and seeing the material fresh, trying to see the material in a fresh way.
Mhm. Did you find that you put your telling of it side by side with any other version, or did you just go with it?
Yeah, I just went with it. I just went with it. Yeah. Yeah,
That is
which, you know
awesome.
what? But I mean, it's a good question, because I know there are purists out there that wouldn't want you to do that, you know, and there are purists in everything, in ballet and in the theater and the opera, that wouldn't want you to do that. Then I'm not the right gal for you, you know, because sometimes the purist will stifle you from moving ahead in life, you know. So So for me, it was approaching it in a new way.
Awesome. And
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
What were you going to say? I interrupted you, Karen. What were you
No,
going to say?
I just wanted to say, I had told Dan, I wished that I had heard someone say to me in my 20s what you said in this work, in your presentation earlier. You have to have the courage to ask the right questions. Just ask the questions. The worst that they can say is no.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be passing that along. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Karen. Karen returned to the beach now. Dan, do we have another good question from a teacher?
Great question from someone currently in Delaware. Look at this, Andra.
What? Andra, Delaware, see Delaware. What is your question for Susan Stroman?
Hi, Susan. I really enjoyed your talk. I'm coming to you from Bethany Beach, Delaware. I was a former Delawarean. Now I work for the school district in Philadelphia, and very, very big fan of your work. And I'm one of those huge center stage fans. So I was just wondering if you could talk about your experience working and choreographing for film versus live productions.
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, we just did an anniversary of Center Stage about 3 weeks ago, where we taught about, I don't know how many, there were like 500 dancers, one of the numbers from the movie Center Stage, and it was great to see. It made me very happy to see it again. But it is very different, movies and live. In the end, it's, I so admire movies, and I so admire, this new golden age of TV, but it's not as fulfilling as live, working with live people, working with live dancers, working with live music. And it's, because when you do a film, you shoot the film, and that crew that you've just shot that film with, that you've devoted your time with for whatever 6 weeks, you never see again. Now you take the film and you go into a room and you're working with an editor, and then don't see them again. Then you go to colorization, boom, so it's like, it's not as quite as fulfilling when you do a film. When you're working in the theater, there's a desperate passion to make that thing work, and everybody is together, and you are all in the pool together, and you either swimming together, you win a medal together, or you drown together, but you are together, and it's very different in the film world. That's not to say I don't admire films. I do. I love film, and I love what's happening with HBO and Netflix. All that's wonderful. But for me personally, that live breath of a singer or an actor, dancer is everything. It just fills me up.
Thank you so much, Andra. Delaware in the house. There's a lot of Delaware up in here right now. So Stro, Dan, were you going to say something?
I just have one question I'll put out there. This is from Kitty Bateman, who just typed it in. Please ask Susan Stroman how she thinks we can teach kindness and empathy. I think that was beautiful.
Great question, Kitty. Great question. Stro, what do you think?
Well, I think, the thing is, it's listening is a big part of that. Listening is a big part of kindness. And if somebody has some sort of problem, you have to listen and let them vent, if that's the right word, about what it is. But listening to people and being there for them, and doing what you can for them, and asking people, what can you do to help? How can I help the situation? Why are you upset? Let me help. So I think teaching, it is important to teach kindness, and it is important to teach people how to be gracious and thankful. Because I think in the end, one has to be very thankful for everything around them. I could complain about everything today, but I am very, very thankful for a lot of things, And I think reminding people about their situation, reminding the people what the real deal is going on around them is very important in helping people realize how important it is to be kind, because you'll get back so much more if you are kind.
We are nearing the end of our time with you today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with this gathering of educators, music lovers, and opera supporters?
Oh, geez, just, I mean, it's so, I was happy to be here, and the fact that you are, uh, have students that are interested in art and interested in opera and music. It's fantastic because they're going to turn out all right if they stay in the arts. They're going to turn out to be good people if they stay in the arts. So it is a good thing that you all are doing. So I admire what you do, and I know how important it is. So thank you to you for doing it.
Oh, beautiful words. Susan Stroman, on behalf of all of these educators and music lovers who are present, I just want to thank you. You are clearly somebody who, I mean, your professional track record is bananas au gratin, and you have made some of the most beautiful, joyous, whole work. And somehow you have done it and maintained this amazing human spirit. You are really you're really wonderful, and it's been a joy to have this time with you. So on behalf of all of us, we just want to thank you for making time in your schedule to
Thank you.
spend some time with us.
Thank you. And very good moderator there, Susan. Excellent. Well done.
What?
Well
I hope
done.
someone's recording this. Come on.
Well done. Thank you, everyone. All the best to you. Stay safe out there. Stay safe.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Susan Stroman.
Bye-bye.
My head is exploding. Susan Stroman, when I think about moving through the world and having those models for people that you want to emulate, Susan Stroman is one of those models for me. She has done, I mean, the breadth of her work it's truly insane. And then that she can be that human being and be making all that work, it just blows my mind. What a joy, what a treat.